What's up, Transformers fans? Mondo here, and welcome to week 21 of Moonbase 84's year-long celebration, celebrating 40 years of Grimlock and the Dinobots. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I took a look at a G1 reissue KO Sideswipe, and in the video I mentioned I picked him up at my buddy's shop because I wanted to check it out and see how it stacked up. Mainly because I had a G1 KO Grimlock on the way, and now that I have them, as you can see here in the box, I thought for this week it'd be fun to check out that KO G1 reissue Grimlock and compare him to the original. But quickly, as always, it's time for the YouTube begging, so if you could hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and all that jazz, we'd really appreciate it. Now, before we take the KO out of the box, I'm going to move the real McCoy out of the way, set him aside so we can just check out the box, because it is pretty, close to the original packaging, but there are some differences and some cuts on mine. So what I'll do is I will throw up an image of the original box so we can compare a little bit as I'm doing this. So to start off, I noticed right away this has been cut. It's at an angle, which is weird, so it was miscut. Plus, all the images that I've seen so far of the original Grimlock box, the corners are rounded, so this was totally miscut. So right away, tells you that something's wrong with this box. Interestingly enough, my Sideswipe packaging was just like the old one. Nice. It was nice and rounded and everything. But anyway, coming to down here, this Transformers logo, where it says Transformers, should be flush where it says Dinosaur Commander Grimlock. They should be together, flush on the side. As you can see, that's shorter. The yellow where it says Grimlock is off. It's darker than the original. And the graphics, the artwork looks pretty nice, but I don't know if it's faded. It's kind of hard with images that you get to check online because they're of older packaging, but I think it's off. Also the same with the product shot on the side. Here the yellow is off again here. And it's a nice image, but it's the easiest way to explain it is maybe it's a little blurrier than the original. And the same on that side. And then here you have the product shot of Grimlock transforming in 4 steps: start, change, finish. And I think this image is crisper in person than what you got on the sides. This is almost like a faded, that's the way to explain it. The image is kind of like faded. This is crisper, much crisper. So pretty close from what I can tell, but obviously it's probably off a little bit. There's that again. On the bottom, same as on the sides. Really nice image. Everything is set up correctly, but the image is a little faded than what you would get with the original. And again, the yellow is off there. And on the back, it's no different. I mean, in the camera with the light, it looks nice and vibrant, but it is kind of faded, the artwork for the back here. But everything, again, the text, the robot points, the barcode, everything is where it's supposed to be, and the tech specs. But again, it's faded. It looks a little faded. And then you've got the tech spec, which has, where is it? I'm trying to point it out right here. Carries, you can see it, carries, it's supposed to say Energo, the R is missing. So that's a giveaway that this is in the original box. And again, the yellow is the yellow is darker, almost like wants to be orange, where on the original it was a brighter yellow. So that is a look at the box and the inaccuracy. So we'll pop him open and compare him to the real Grimlock to see how close he stacks up. As you might be able to tell, there are no stickers applied to the Grimlock, even the ones that were typically factory applied stickers, but you do get them. This is the sticker. These are the stickers that go here. And then you get the rub sign, which is another factory applied on the original here. And I already checked. And, oh, I don't know if you can see that, but this one does work. On my side swipe, it did not. And then you get the tech spec decoder and the rest of the stickers. Now, on the side swipe, my side swipe review of the knockoff side swipe, I did say I was going to try to get some toy hacks for him, and I will do the same with Grimlock, because some of these, the KO reissues, the most recent ones going around, are known for the stickers to being low quality and cut, so they look funky. So I think I'm just not even going to bother with them and get the toy hacks. I will save, well, I'll save them all, but I'll save these because I'm not sure if the toy hacks has these, the pre-applied. I'm sure they do, but just to be safe, I'll make sure I keep these handy in case I do need them. So we're going to set those off to the side. And then first we're going to check out the accessories. So here's the original sword and the new one. And as you can see, there is a bit of mold loss. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but you can kind of see the sculpted groove here that goes down. This one is more faint. And also the KO one is a little bit gummier. Not super gummy, but gummier than this one. So, but it's pretty close. And then let's compare his double barrel blaster. And they're looking pretty spot on. Oh, get it in view. So yeah, those are really close. And then of course you get the rocket launcher. I have to get my G1 original out. I just have it in a little baggie. Bear with me for 1 second. So here is the original, and here's the KO. Once again, really close. Of course, this is older plastic. It's been around, so there will be some fading. It's not quite as shiny as the original. And then, whoa, don't drop it. These are the missiles still in the sprues for the KO. And let's see how they stack up with an original missile. We get it out of that baggie again. And again, this chrome is old, so these are going to be shinier. And they're really close again. So pretty cool. The accessories are very close, which is a good thing. Okay, so let's get some of that out of the way, and then we will take a closer look at these two guys. Okay, while researching the differences between an original Grimlock and the kind of, I guess, the most recent rounds of KO Grimlocks, the first thing that usually gets brought up is the clear plastic, like around the neck areas. And on the KOs, the plastic is darker. And as you can see, we'll bring it up close, that is the case. I mean, it looks nice, but it clearly is a darker plastic. So that's a big way to tell if you got a KO instead of the original. As you can see, the difference is very striking next to each other. I still think it looks nice, but it's a difference. Let's get them on looking on the same side, just so we have a proper comparison. Besides everything else, everything looks nice mold wise. it doesn't look like the mold, anything has been lost really in the mold. Nothing is soft per se. Everything is sharp and crisp, just like the original, which is good. One thing I have noticed, at first I thought it was just my lighting, but the plastic color on this Grimlock is slightly darker. You might be able to see that on camera. I'm looking through the viewfinder and you can see it, and it's not just the lighting. I had it out of the light. Now, my problem, not a problem, but my thing with that is I'm not sure if that's due once again to the aged plastic of the original, so it's faded over time. But if you're looking for a Grimlock, and you know, something to maybe be wary of if you think you're buying an original Grimlock, because I'm sure most of them have faded a little bit over time by now, just like with the chrome. Speaking of the chrome, of course it's not as shiny, just like with the weapons, because it fades over time. But this KO does have some really nice striking chrome. There's not a lot of blemishes or anything, even on the feet. Another tell with the to tell the KO between the KO and, that's interesting. The teeth are a little different. The top of his teeth, the front, look a bit more rounded. I know they were rounded when he became Grimlock from Diaclone, but they just seem a bit more rounded. I don't know if you can see there. So that's a little interesting. Another thing is, it doesn't mean it's not authentic, but on the original, the Diaclone, the old Diaclone cockpit opens up. This one does not, but there was a mold change with some of, you know, what are authentic G1 style Grimlocks, where they didn't, they sealed it at some point. So that does not mean it's not a real Grimlock, but this one happens to be a sealed one. So probably using a newer mold version of that Grimlock. Another thing that they changed, I don't know if you see here, on the original, you can only tilt his head up that far, and then they did a mold change where it could go up even further. You see that like that, maybe so you see it like this, and that was so kids wouldn't break it by forcing it. And it's because on the original there's this ridge and that stops it, and they removed the ridge so kids wouldn't break his head. Basically, it's an indented ridge instead of a raised ridge. They open up, both mouths of course open up. Let's see the detail in there. Same details inside the mouth. Pretty cool. Besides that, he is really close to an original Grimlock, which is awesome. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is transform both these guys up, and we will compare the robot modes. So here we have our Grimlocks transformed up into robot mode. The KO reissue on the left and the original Grimlock on the right. And as you can see, the KO does a good job in robot mode, obviously, just like in Dino mode, representing the original Grimlock. Again, you see the darker plastic on the chest compared to the original, but besides that, all the details are there. Of course, the stickers aren't on him, which I already mentioned. I'm going to probably go look for some toy hacks. Again, the chrome right now is more vibrant because it's not 40 years old and faded. But yeah, I think this KO does a good job representing him. Let's see in the light. I wanted to see their heads in the light. The KO, I'm not sure if you can see it through the glare. The KO's eyes, his red is much darker, and it gets lost pretty easily in the black compared to the original. What I think is funny is both of them have a floppy like this piece, like his wing, I guess, in robot mode, on the same side. They're both floppy. This one has more of an excuse because he is much older, but I find that odd. But besides that, this KO version, almost everything is tight on my copy, except for that, and then this arm, when it's extended for Dino mode, the T-Rex mode, doesn't stay all the way in place and it wants to flop up, but of course you're setting him down on those feet, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, that is the comparison. I mean, this is a pretty close job. I see a little bit of imperfections. You see some weirdness going on here, just there. I don't know if that's some goop or glue, but for my purposes, which we'll talk about in a minute, this is a pretty decent representation of the original Grimlock toy. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this KO Grimlock. So to wrap things up, this KO G1 reissue Grimlock is what I was looking for. I wanted a faithful representation of the original toy where I can mess around with him and not worry about breaking him, because you know, the original toys, especially with those Dinobots, the original Dinobots, they're 40 years old, the plastics are getting brittle, and when I handle them and mess with them, I'm really nervous that I'm going to break something. Now if I want to, you know, mess around with a G1 Grimlock, I have this nice KO representation of him, where yes, I did spend money on it, but if I break him, it's not breaking an original, which would really bum me out more. He is very, very close to the original. We went through everything, and I forgot what I didn't mention was the quality. He feels good. He feels nice and hefty, comparable in weight to the original, and the plastics feel like they feel like they're quality plastic, like it's just not going to snap. It feels very similar, the plastic quality, to the original, and the metal parts as well. Most of the cons aren't with the figure itself, it's more with the box. I wish that was a better box. I have seen better quality KO boxes. Mine, the big issue for me that I don't like is how it was miscut. It makes it look ugly. And then the instructions looking like they've been sitting out soaking up sun rays. But besides that, all the accessories look the part. They pretty much feel the part. But yeah, the cons are basically that. I do have that loose piece here, and a little wiggle there, but that is not a big deal. So yeah, I'm happy I picked this guy up. I will mess with him when I want to mess around with the G1 Grimlock and not worry about breaking my original. I also do want to pick up, and now I had mentioned in a video that I wanted to pick these KO Dinobots up for that very reason. And now, after testing out Sideswipe and testing out Grimlock, I'm pretty confident that I'll be happy with the rest of the Dinobots, so I will be looking to get those in the future. With that being said, comment to let me know what you think about this KO G1 reissue Grimlock, and as always, thanks for docking.